check and see if we have audio.
Hello.
All right, well, testing 1, 2, 3.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Let us know if you can hear us.
Testing
Thumbs
1,
up.
2, 3. A thumbs up,
Yeah.
something, a smiley face, or something just
Yeah.
to let us know.
Oh, they're giving us hearts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is great to be
Cheers.
back, Maggie. You have your water?
It's over there.
Do you want it?
Yes.
Okay, so I thought I was gonna have to get up and get it. All right. Well, good evening. Welcome back to Carbon Matters live streaming. I'm Chris Lukasiewicz, Commissioner, Carbon County. I'm joined by my co-host in person this time versus last month when we got things started back up. In person versus virtually, as we were doing some serious social distancing. You will notice the C4 logo. It is modified, as many may recall. I'd like to think it sticks in some minds. It used to say Chris Lukasiewicz for Carbon County Commissioner. We had our artist, our graphic designer, rework it a little bit for us. Again, want to stick Chris, Carbon County Commissioner, so it still worked out. It's that universal design, just like a house. When you build it now, you want to use it as long as possible. So this one logo that we invested so much time and energy in, based upon Maggie's idea and concept, So again, thank you so much for joining us. I'm actually broadcasting from my office. Once again, it hasn't changed much, other than we got some more things up on the wall since the last time I was here. Last time, Maggie, if you recall, I was actually sitting at my desk, not here at the chairs in my little sitting area that I have set up here, which is a great little space. So again, I want to thank you so much for joining us. In just a minute, we're really going to roll in. And this is all about having a conversation. And Maggie, what I want you to do, because I really would like to see if we can get some folks to call in versus just chatting. So if you could put my personal cell phone number, here the cell phone is sitting right in front of me. That number, as it always has been, publicly available for the last about a year and a half, it seems, 570-503 6780, as I normally say, as long as you don't try calling it between 5:30 and 7:30 when we're sitting down for dinner and getting Molly, her bath ready for bed and stuff like that. Feel free to use it, text it, call it, whatever you need to use it for in order to communicate more directly to me. So let's roll into a bunch of things here, but you know what? I am not going to start with the pandemic. Obviously, that is the central theme of it. Seems like everything extremely difficult to escape it, if you're watching the news, the TV, or reading the paper. But let's get up to date on maybe a few other things that are happening in Carbon County since the last time we had these conversations. And I do want to make a plug, because even Maggie doesn't know this, what ultimately I'm going to say. So I've been, really since 1984 when I finished the Q course, I really became a teacher, an instructor, and a mentor. And, we all have what we think are our callings, and, maybe that was indeed my calling, but I felt this need to work to educate, inform, really, everyone. So what I wanted to do, and what I really saw over the last 6-7 weeks as we've been going through this environment right now, is it re-emphasized me how individuals are a little bit confused in the role of county government versus state versus municipality. So in 2 weeks, I am actually going to host a County Government 101 event. I'm going back and forth between using Facebook live streaming, where I can share my screen, or actually do a Zoom room, and I can host up to about 500 folks in the Zoom room. So it's going to be County Government 101. Going to spend an hour or two just talking about county government and its role in our daily lives. So again, look for that coming out in about 2 weeks. So let's start talking about things that are happening. Gosh, it's so hard to stay away from things that aren't influenced by COVID-19. My gosh, I'm trying to look. Oh, nope. Oh, Granada Hutton Hospital. Now, it must have been about 2 years ago, I raised the concern that after St. Luke's purchased, and we saw the process coming, when they purchased Granada Hutton and Palmerton, which was really Blue Mountain Hospital System, that the county continued to be the guarantors for some bonds that were issued. Well, so excited, I don't know if I had mentioned it, I probably gave a heads up. In consultation with St. Luke's when we first met with them in January, February, March, continued to drive that point home. And I was assured by their senior leadership that as soon as they got the loan for the new campus in Franklin Township, that we would be resolved of that responsibility. Absolved of that responsibility. And they resolved to absolve us of that responsibility. And that loan has closed. Our bonds that we have or had as guarantors are no longer in existing, and they're reissuing bonds, debt bonds, basically in their own name without us in guarantors. I have asked our financial advisor for the paperwork, because until I see it in writing and see the paperwork from the Security Exchange Commission that our bonds no longer are listed us as guarantors, I'm not, again, set on, this is it. But it is a done deal. So that's the big news. And that, again, that was just the unnecessary financial risk that the county continued to assume for way too long.
Well,
So
because
that
basically what it would mean is if for some reason St. Luke's
would default, go out of
that means
business.
It would be on us.
Yeah, and you say, well, and look, I'm going to touch my face. I have clean hands, all right? So I know I'm being self-conscious. But again, everyone said, well, St. Luke's would never go out of business. Well, if anyone looked at the reporting over the last 6 or 7 weeks, what has happened to hospitals, because they're not doing their elective surgeries, their regular things that are really the revenue generators, So, and we saw the hospital in Easton that was on the verge of collapse, and unless a deal goes through, it will collapse, and that was pushed forward because of recent events, which again, you just can't get around. Let me talk a little bit about what's going on in the county. We originally furloughed 97 individuals for the first tranche, or time period, which was about 30 days. We re-examined that, and on a regular basis, departments, row officers, and the courts continue to reassess and reevaluate their numbers. I'm talking COVID. I'm not going to try to fight it, right?
You could have done other stuff though.
Yeah, I got a few more. They'll roll naturally. But we actually got around to about into the low 80s right now. And we're going to continue to assess on a daily basis, the commissioners, right, what our needs are when it comes to employees. And I recognize it's extremely hard on some. It is a financial hardship, mostly because of the delays in the old architecture or infrastructure that our unemployment compensation system in Pennsylvania utilizes. As a week ago, we had 20-some furloughed individual, full-time furloughed, so that means they weren't working at all, who were actually still having problems with unemployment compensation.
Right.
So that is a significant concern. But of course, we want to get them back to work, but there's 3 factors that we assessed, right? Safety of the individuals, and of course, the citizens who they might come in contact with in offering services that the county provides. Was there enough work to gainfully employ them and to be paying for?
Because things have slowed down, obviously.
Yeah.
Some things are not as,
Yeah, absolutely, in all regards. Now the courts are starting to kick it up a little bit, so we'll see a need for even a few more folks to start coming in over the next week or so, weeks or two. But so it was safety of individuals, it was work demand, and then finally it was a financial decision also. Those 3 things continue to be the primary criteria, but not all inclusive criteria. And again, I want to thank everyone who is furloughed, who has been patient, and has taken it as best as one could in stride. Because no doubt a challenging environment for everyone. For some, it may have been a godsend. You know what I mean? Because unquestionably, the last I saw about 4 weeks ago, over 50% of the individuals who had been furloughed, or excuse me, 50% of the people collecting unemployment at this time were making more with that additional $600 per week from the federal government. So as long as the money's flowing, that 50% is good. But if that money hasn't been flowing, extremely challenging.
Also with schools being closed, a lot of, if any of those furloughed people had young children. Wow.
Yeah, but again, there was an exception to FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act, that could allow parents who had children because of school closures to actually use FMLA. Again, maybe not optimal, but that was an option that was out there. I talked a little bit about money in regards to one of the issues we were concerned with, and it was about cash flow. How much money would be coming in and how quickly would tax revenue come in. The tax statements went out 1 April, and our anticipation was in this initial discount period, which goes to the end of May, a 2% discount, we expected we would pretty much stay aligned with previous year's revenue coming into the county from property taxes. Now, if you recall, that property tax went up a little, just under 20% this past year. But using the 19 and 20 comparisons with the data we have today, we're only about 2% below our target for this time in 2019. And that's that 2%, I think it's around $3.6 million of that. So it's about $64,000 less than we took in last year. So again, we're not doing bad during the discount period, but it's not the discount period we're worried about. It's kind of that base period. And I think a good thing that the commissioners have done, we extended that base period. So no discount, no penalty, but it's just the face fee on your tax statement. Now that's been extended out all the way to 1 November. But 1 November is a Sunday. You can't mail on a Sunday, right? So the fact is, it is acceptable the 2nd. 2 November. So as long as you're stamped by 2 November, you won't go into the penalty period. So basically at 0001, 1 minute after midnight, right, on the 3rd, that's when you would go into the 10% penalty period. The fact is, historically, there is not much tax that is taken in during that period. I think last year the penalty amount and such total about $60-some thousand also. So there isn't a lot, but nonetheless, it is a larger window of opportunity now because of the financial challenges that people are facing. And I did notice we are tracking the townships and municipalities, and they're pretty much following suit when it comes to certain. They're ensuring they're on the same sheet of music with us when it comes to collection of the property taxes and those municipalities that have a property tax. Now again, don't confuse our tax that we pay, right? We have to pay to the county, all of us. Don't confuse that with the school district tax, right? Completely different set of taxes. So we're 12.25 mil is what the county tax is, and then it's unique for every school district.
Right.
And
we have some Panther Valley people watching.
Oh yeah, and they know, and I know. Come 1 August, and I feel for you guys, So sometimes I got to knock on a little bit of wood that we're in Jim Thorpe and not the Panther Valley school district. So again, a little bit of reprieve, but definitely not enough. And I still believe, regardless of the financial situation we face now, on 6 January, absolutely should have reopened that budget, started trimming the fat, because there's always fat to be found, right? You just got to make a conscientious effort. So that tax penalty period, that's what I want to talk about. Maggie, this month, Armed Forces Month, and if anyone happened to see either my live streaming And I'm not talking about when I had my phone in the pocket and I was walking across the street. I'm talking before that. And I'm not talking about when I had the glare in my phone and I couldn't see what I was doing because the iPhone just is not good on direct sunlight, even though I was blocking it. It's in between that. When I was highlighting what Christine LeClaire, our director of VA, put together and came to the commissioners for, was to create a veteran dedicated parking spot for those veterans who are coming to conduct official business with the Veterans Affairs Office. And I want to thank Jim Thorpe Borough, because we first approached Jim Thorpe Borough as a potential parking spot. And we had a great discussion with the mayor, council members, chief of police Joey Schatz, and they were all in favor of proceeding. Now that was one potential spot we were looking at, right by Molly's. However, the challenge with this spot, as we assessed it compared to others, was there wasn't a pedestrian crossing, right? It wasn't really wheelchair or handicap van accessible. So we found what we think is a near perfect spot right across on one of the county meter spots. And we actually, don't want to say dedicated it, we opened that spot for veterans today. And that was highlighted on Blue Ridge Cable, I think in the second half of the Valley report, Pocono Valley report that came on. And I was live streaming it also, and I had a more in-depth conversation with Christine LeClaire. And I'll be posting that back up tonight once I can edit out in my pocket and me stumbling around trying to see my phone.
Yeah, thank you, Lori, for...
Oh yeah, thank you, Lori Devonshire.
She's watching.
Lori, I was thinking, should I answer it or not? And I will tell you, Lori, I knew the moment I saw it that the call was about I didn't get my live streaming turned off, because I was sitting there. I may have been even actually talking about it when I was managing the phone. I just couldn't see. So might as well just stick it in your pocket and walk around. And so, you know.
Just a quick question. Is there something designating it as the Veterans?
Oh yeah, there's a sign.
Okay.
Oh yeah, there's a beautiful sign up there. And I had posted it on Facebook before, just the sign. But again, and I think I actually probably did a Google shot, a Google Maps shot or Google Earth shot also. Mm-hmm. Hey, but you're joining Carbon Matters. Carbon Matters is Chris Lukasiewicz, Carbon County Commissioner. I'm joined by my co-host, Maggie. And really, I want that phone to ring. Mom, if you're listening, right? 570-503-6780.
It's in the comments, but I'm going to type it in
Yeah,
again.
and Maggie's going to type it in again. So when I'm having now this reflex of feeling I have to touch my face. And it's so counter to what we've been pressured to do here lately. So again, I have an itch, which means must be in for some money or something like that, right? Or is that an ear or a nose? Something like that. But again, 570-503-6780, where you can call direct. The phone is waiting right here.
I really want to start having call-ins because
it's much easier, you know. And mostly for us who are trying to type back. You're doing some typing, they're doing some typing to get the full context of the issue or concern or the point individuals.
I have been seeing the comments that you've been making, but we're trying to start out without covering COVID. So
directly. We're working around the edges, right? What we're calling in artillery or mortar work, we're bracketing, right? So you're at 400 meters, and you go 200, 150, boom, fire for effect. You're right on target, right? When you get within there, that 25 meters or so. But again, I was really trying to talk about Armed Forces Month, which is the entire month of May, and that's where we recognize active duty Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, and actually Coast Guard, although not in the Armed Forces, under Department of Homeland Security, unless in times of war they can be put under Department of Defense. But again, it's normally a month full of military activity. Obviously everything has been squelched down quite a bit because of the times we are in and the challenges we're facing. But 1947 was the 1947 National Security Act, which created the Department of Defense took those separate, disparate services, brought them under one team, kind of one fight, a united team concept. 2 years later, in 1949, Secretary of Defense Lewis designated 16 May, the third Saturday of May, Armed Forces Day. And that's what we're on the cusp of within Armed Forces Month. Well, we also have some other important dates that occur during that month associated with Armed Forces Day. VE Day, Victory in Europe Day, right? And that was just about a week or so ago, and I did have, I think, one post online in regards to that, right? So VE Day. We didn't see much in the U.S., although the president was at the World War II Memorial on the Mall and had an event. The Brits still had some really big events, although I'm sure with appropriate social distance and stuff like that. So VE Day. Military Spouse Appreciation Day is another one that occurred this month. Also, we have Memorial Day coming up, right? Yeah. Just about a week and a half away, right? A week from this coming Monday is Memorial Day. And that really brings us to another point. It brings us to flags. And that ties into COVID because that was a secondary or tertiary effect. So Governor Wolf, I think, wisely made the determination that he thought it would be a good gesture to lower the Commonwealth flag due to the suffering, to half-mast, lower it to half-mast, the Commonwealth flag. And I believe it was on 6 April is when he issued that directive. The problem is individuals misinterpreted the lowering of the Commonwealth flag or his directive with lowering the U.S. flag. And myself and the Veterans Affairs Director, we are trying to be tactful and help educate or inform people about 4 U.S. Code Section 7, which tells when a governor has the authority to lower the U.S. flag to half-staff, because otherwise that authority simply rests with the President of the United States. And the only time the governor could lower or order the lowering of the U.S. flag to half-staff is when a military member or a politician or a first responder died in service for the first responder and military, or the politician, and normally it would be a notable one, who died in office or had died otherwise. In those situations, he could order it to half-staff. Pandemic doesn't fit within there. All right. So again, I would ask you, if you do see a flag, U.S. flag, the national colors, our colors, at half-staff, please inform that organization. And it was either Legion or VFW in Carbon County that had their flag. There was a major manufacturer in Carbon. There was a school district, at least one, and there may have been more. But they were very grateful once they were informed about 4 U.S. Code Section 7 and highlighted the authority or lack of authority of the governor to lower those flags. They were very responsive. So again, please, most importantly during this month, get those flags to the peak, the U.S. flags to its peak, and show the appropriate respect and adherence to the protocol with that. Again,
especially
it's not
tomorrow.
Well, especially on the 16th and all the time. It doesn't matter. You're talking.
That's right. Today's
Look,
the 14th.
the fact is,
Yeah,
don't want to diminish the gesture that's made in the Commonwealth flag. But again, I would ask, just be conscientious of that. Now we're going to have to COVID.
Yeah, we need to get moving.
Oh, we're in no rush. I have all night.
Not.
Yeah, now I told Nagy previously, I am absolutely in no rush this evening to get out of here at 9 o'clock on the button. Mostly if we have some call-ins. I don't mind going a little bit longer because that's a little bit more engaging. So let's talk about where we are. So we're about 206, or right on, at least according to the Pennsylvania Department of Health, who daily at 12 o'clock put the numbers up. 206, what they're saying are confirmed cases. Now, there is an indication they may actually be some presumptive that are lumped in there. 206 confirmed cases, and I'm talking Carbon County. and then 17 deaths, of which 13 of those are associated with long-term care facilities.
Yeah.
So really, we're talking, 75% ballpark a figure for that, right? Right around 75% of those deaths are associated with it. Hey, no shock there, right? We knew from day one the elderly and senior centers were going to be the most vulnerable population in facilities. It's just a shame and an embarrassment that is not where we focused our resources. At those seniors, at those long-term care facilities where underlying conditions naturally existed. So again, 20617. Now let's talk about our neighbors. In the top 13 counties of COVID cases, we have Lehigh, Luzerne, Northampton, and Monroe. So that's on 4 of our 5 sides. So they're in the top 13. 3 of those are in the top 10. All right, it's probably the top 8 actually. Now Schuylkill, the day before yesterday, they were at 20. They were about 25, if I recall. And again, Carbon's a little bit lower on that. That's the ballpark, if I recall. But nonetheless, we have a little bit of daylight to the southwest. Everywhere else, we're kind of surrounded. And we might seem like, we're really in the eye of the storm. But as I was looking at our numbers again today, this was through the 14th. Actually, and again, this is my 14-day average, and it is on Facebook also, and I always ask individuals to challenge my numbers, 14 periods of number.
Move that hand.
Move the what?
Move
People
it
can
where
see
you're-
it on Facebook.
Oh, I know. But,
I mean, it's
but
posted.
put your hand up higher because you're.
Oh, okay.
you're
There's the low point, right?
Yeah.
There is where we're at today. I have us at 48.3 positive cases per 100,000 over the previous 14 days. Now that is not the first time we've gone under, according to my numbers, under 50. But we're getting more consistent with it. But as you recall, that was one of the criteria for being able to transition from red to phase yellow or yellow phase. Now included in that also was one, identifying facilities, vulnerable facilities that might be challenged. So, know where your long-term facilities are, long-term care facilities, places where many people come together, perhaps in some businesses that remain open. Also had to have contact tracing, and that is the ability to interview an individual who is confirmed positive and figure out who they've been in contact with. And then it was looking at capacity of the hospitals, and specifically intensive care units, ventilators, kind of that holistic approach to hospital capacity and capability. Everything we're getting, everything we received information-wise from St. Luke's, primarily for Carbon County, but also LVHN, because they serve a significant number of Carbon County residents, have been positive, right? They have the capacity, they have the capability. So it seems pretty clear to me, my fellow commissioners, Rep. Heffley, Knowles, Senator Udicek, and that's why we sent the letter to Governor Wolf seeking Carbon County to be moved from red to yellow. Now we understand there are some risks associated with that.
There's a comment about
let's
that.
go. Yeah, go ahead.
So this is a good time to put it in. First of all, there was a comment from Marie Oriani.
Oh, we're 45.
She said, "Open up our state,"
Oh.
which we have no control over that. But obviously, that was your comment. And then Donna Delaney asked, "What is your position in regards to opening up the county against the governor's orders?"
Well, our position is Carbon County is ready to transition from red to yellow. It seems like every Friday the governor makes his pronouncement or announcement on counties moving to the next phase. I don't think at this time, or we should go in defiance of the governor. It's not because I agree with him. I think the criteria up until now that he had, 50 over per 100,000 was a good first step. And those other ones were important. My point being that we've reached that goal, right? I don't expect him to continue to raise the bar. We are now crossed the tipping point where we need to take our priority of effort, priority of resources, simply off of saving lives, and now rebalancing, taking some of that effort and resources and focus it on our economy. Right. I think we may have overcompensated. That pendulum needs to come back. It's time to safely and responsibly open Carbon County. I don't think we're going to have to do it, quote unquote, in defiance. I don't want to be a Schuylkill County. What did Schuylkill County do?
Man,
they misassessed or analyzed the situation, I have to assume, because they were out there with all this bravado, and all of a sudden now we see they step back.
Well, Wolf basically threatened those states.
Well, he did threaten them, and I think that was totally inappropriate to make those the way he did it. He could have said there were things that he controlled. There's consequences
to every action.
Life is volitional. You make choices.
The fact that they pulled back, it was like, you're gonna go,
if you commit, commit. Yeah. You know what? Drive on to the Ranger objective and complete the mission, though you be the lone survivor.
Right.
There's nothing like being a vacillator, right? Yeah. So again, tough call on their part. They made their choice. Then they made another choice.
There's a question. Mark Janner wants to know: have you gotten a response to your letter?
No, Mark, we haven't, and I don't expect that we'll formally hear back specifically to that. Now, we haven't heard
he's not been very responsive, let's just say that.
Well, information sharing, information flow hasn't been very good from the get-go. So we have not, the commissioners have not heard back. Now, we do have representatives from the County Commissioners Association meeting with the governor tomorrow. So in that conversation, we may get some specific feedback in regards to our request, or it could go through our representatives, Heffley, Knowles, or UDCHEC also. But as of when I came over here, I had no email from Reps Heffley, Knowles, or Senator UDCHEC saying we've heard back from the governor.
And Margaret Allen was wondering, can you go over his head?
The governor's head?
Yeah. I don't think. I mean,
well, no. The president has rightly decided in a federalist form of government, republic, right? The states has the preponderance of responsibility and control. Again, and I think I love that decentralized manner of which we operate in the United States. And so, one, I wouldn't consider it. Two, I don't think there's a need to go over anyone's head, because Carbon County, we're in a good position. We're moving forward. We are starting that transition psychologically. We're starting and working hard on the planning to transition to yellow. We've made the benchmarks. This past Tuesday, we brought together, the county commissioners brought together, and most people who are reading Facebook know this, Pocono Mountain Visitor Bureau, Carbon Chamber, Palmerton Chamber, JTTA, Lansford Alive, Lehighton Downtown, Lehighton Main Street, to have our initial conversation about a safe and responsible reopening of Carbon County in advance of our neighboring counties, because we knew there was some risk associated with opening prior to the other counties around us. And specifically, what is that? That's the influx of New York, New Jersey, and those county individuals who might be looking for a least restrictive opportunity to engage in recreation and dining. Now we're going to take that working group that we had this past Tuesday, and next Tuesday we're actually bringing in all the boroughs and the municipalities, township leadership, or representative to also take from, and Rocky said it pretty well today, and understand, there is so much information out there. Now, he was quoting someone else, but again, it was a good point. There's so much information out there, but it seems like people want guidance, and that's what we have to provide, guidance. And what I'd like to see us come out of next Tuesday with, prior to us actually stepping into that yellow phase, which again, knock on wood, it's just around the corner because we've met those benchmarks. I want to focus our guidance on providing guidance to businesses, citizens, and then finally other government entities, the 23 municipalities that make up our county.
This is a great point right now to share. Dakota Lee made this comment. We need to open Carbon just like other counties have opened despite orders. And I think what Chris is saying is such a great point, is that we should be working towards that and then doing it in a responsible manner so that there's like a unified effort of everyone doing, like a unified front of everyone doing the right thing, instead of just saying, oh, you're open, and then this business over here doing their thing and this business over here doing their thing,
Yeah.
and not having like that unified way to keep our county residents as
Yeah.
safe and as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be synchronized and
Sync-
coordinated at multiple levels.
Good.
Of course, we want it synchronized and coordinated state, county, municipal level. So what else we've done, and it was the initiative of the commissioners from Pike County, right? Part of the 4 counties that make up the Pocono Mountain reached out to us and had conversations to bring the 4 counties of Poconos, Wayne, Pike, Carbon, and Monroe, together to have conversations about how we're going to open, so that those secondary and tertiary effects, as one opens and the others don't, or a little bit slower, we can assess those potential effects and respond to those. So,
Quick question from Donna. Can I
Yeah.
interrupt you?
yeah.
Yeah, it's because it's along the same lines. It's,
Yeah.
have you discussed with an economist what our outcome will be if we do not open now? It's kind of along the same.
No, again, I studied economics, and I can tell you the sooner we open, the sooner we can get our economy going again. I think that's a basic knowledge, because again, we're going to ramp up. There's going to be a psychological transition that we are going to have to make about wanting to go into businesses. There's also the fact that businesses are going to ramp back up because we're simply going to yellow. And if you look at yellow,
Can you explain what yellow? Yeah. What yellow-
well, yellow is simply a benchmark, right? It takes us to a lesser restrictive environment than we are
Can you
at this
explain it?
time. So what we have, for example,
This is what yellow's about.
yeah, this is what yellow is going to allow us to do for work in congregate settings, so where people come together, right? They still want us to telework, but businesses with in-person operations need to follow safety orders. And really what they're talking about are CDC and Department of
Guidelines.
Health guidelines, right? Child care can open, but they have to have safety policies in place. And really it's about health and safety and and sanitation. But schools will remain closed and prisons will remain closed. When it comes to social settings, those stay-at-home restrictions are lifted, right? It's no longer only go out if you're going to do recreation or go to an essential requirement. Still not going to have any large gatherings whatsoever. They want in-person retail to stay curbside. In recreation, such as health and fitness centers and stuff, that's going to stay closed. Restaurants and bars, limited. So it's not we're jumping all back into restaurants again, So again, it's not a big leap from red to yellow. I'm telling you, it's going to be minimal. But again, this has to be gradual, because if we jump in too fast, what if we get in over our heads, right? That's because all those folks, not from Carbon County, come here, or we become less responsible with adhering to the protocols, right? And all of a sudden we have a spike of COVID cases. So it's going to be easier to back off in lieu of going full throttle forward at this point. We have to ease in so we can see changes that might go in spikes. And again, there's psychological change. I'm not just jumping into a restaurant, you know?
Right.
And now we expect they'll follow certain protocols of social distancing and
I think this is wise too in another sense. We can see with China, who obviously is way ahead of us and the rest of the world in terms of, you know, going through the phases of this virus. They're having surges,
yeah.
and so
And we do see other countries, some
Other
countries
countries
in
as
Europe,
well.
I think
Yeah, some
Germany was
countries
another
yeah.
one, are seeing
Yeah.
hot spots.
Yeah.
So again,
Surges. So you
slow
just-
and steady. Yeah,
just do it
no
right.
rush.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
do it right
Yeah.
and do it safely and.
But we
It's
do
hard.
have to start again moving
Mm.
towards a more open, less restrictive economic environment, because we have to start getting that economy. We have to save any businesses or as many businesses as we can, you know. And you know we have only one formal announcement so far. Mahoning, the theater in Mahoning has been the only formal announcement. There is a rumor that one more is out there that won't come out of this, and I'm sure there's probably going to be others. Unfortunately, even
Sadly.
with whatever little help the Paycheck Protection Program has provided. I do want to emphasize when we talk about county government, remember, commissioners run county government. We don't run the county, right? We don't run the lives of private individuals. We may influence it by actions we take. We don't control it. That is really left up to, in many aspects, the most influential government in your life is your municipality, who has ordinances, zoning, right, that impact your life. They have enforcement entities.
The county doesn't.
The county doesn't, right? We have officers of the court who are sheriffs, but they don't even fall under the county commissioners. That's a separate row office.
Yeah.
And if you join me in 2 weeks in County Government 101, you'll learn more about that. Great time for a plug. So again, just keep this in mind, right? We have certain legal authorities that are codified in the county code, right? Commissioners run county government. We don't run the county. And I know that's tough for people to understand. So when people come to me or in email or in social media, you know, Chris Lukasevich, Rocky Arner, Wayne Notestein, open up Carbon County. I can open up the mapping office downstairs. I can do that for you.
Yeah.
All right? Because 3 days a week, the director's there, but he's not too. We're not allowing the public to come in direct, you know, email, online,
Right.
etc. We can open that. That's county government.
Yeah.
But we can't tell that business across the street open or close. It's not within our authority. But what we can do, and as we have been, and I'm quite proud of what we've done, we've been the advocate to get things moving. You know, move from red to yellow because the goal line was set, we crossed it. So now let's move into yellow and start loosening things up, and let's start, again, priority of effort, priority of resources has to shift. Doesn't mean we forget it, but the preponderance has to go to the economics. And you read things that we've written or been posted on Facebook, you'll definitely see that is the focus. Hey, I do want to say, if you want to talk a little bit more and have an easier conversation, 570-503-6780. Love to hear your voice, 570-503-6780. Next month, I'll have a couple plants call in to get things going, you know. This is my Snerdley, my call screener right here. And who's Snerdley? Well, if any of you guys have ever listened to Rush Limbaugh, you know what I'm talking about. Hey, welcome to Carbon County. Masks on, please. And that's about those individuals who are going to pour into Carbon County, right? And that's our biggest threat to our health. But it's also probably the best way we're going to get our economy rolling again also.
Right.
So it's
Double-edged
a double-edged sword. But we do want not only our own citizens, but them also to act responsibly. to wear masks when you're going to be engaging or interacting with other individuals. I want you to wash your hands. I want you to cover your cough, right? Things of that nature. Those are the things, and maintain that social distancing. So I'm going to throw a crazy idea there. What brings folks to Carbon County? It's our primarily our natural beauty, our natural resources, the hills, the mountains, our state
trails.
parks, right? Beltsville, Hickory Run, our state game lands, right? Mock Chunk Lake Park. Well over 3/4 of the camping sites that are rented out at Mock Chunk Lake Park are not for Carbon County residents. Right now, because of when the park opens on the 22nd to 12 June for camping only, that portion of it. Now the boat launches are already open, but for camping, 22 May to 12 June is Carbon residents only. When we made that decision, we canceled a multitude of out-of-county, out-of-state reservations, 30 some of them. We only had 3 campsites by 2 families that were scheduled for county residents during that time period so far, principally Memorial Day weekend, which starts Friday the 22nd. But that just is a demonstration of how little county residents are using the park. Maybe they're being pushed out by these others.
Yeah.
But again, so here's your opportunity. If you want to experience the cabins or the camping, tent, roughing it a little bit, from the 22nd to the 12th of June, we're restricting it to county residents only. So I wish you'd take advantage of that. So now think about this. Glenanoka, Lehigh Gorge State Park, the game lands,
Dee just brought that up.
Beltsville, and Hickory Run. What if the state would say, now this falls under CDC guidelines, this is why I'm bringing this up. It says recreate in your own area. Recreate in your own area. Don't go out of area to recreate. That's what the CDC guidelines say, and the governor pushes that. Well, why don't we help create that environment where people won't come into other areas to recreate? Why don't we set the standard? Wow, I'm seeing Aggie's eyes.
I don't know where he's going with this.
Where's he going? You know what I'm saying? While we're in yellow phase, I want our state parks, I want our game lands, I want our state areas, such as Lehigh Gorge State Park, Lehigh Gorge, right? I want that reserved for the use of county residents. I don't want 5,000 out-of-county residents coming into Carbon County and creating a significant challenge to our health. Now, is that a crazy idea or what?
Is it
Tough?
enforceable?
Is it enforceable? Now that's the challenge. You know what? I can do it at Mock Chunk Lake Park. I know I can do it at Glenanoka, at Lehigh Gorge, at least from the entry point in Jim Thorpe.
Right.
I know the other points up to the north, right? You can there are parking spots up. Well, go into like Whitehaven, right?
Right.
Up there at Rockport, for example, an entry point. You can minimize the numbers. Now, state game lands, of course, extremely challenging. But our parks, absolutely. All it is someone there at the gate. Show me your driver's license. Show me a form of identification, which identifies you as a county resident. Now, I think that is something that the governor should consider. Again, if you want to truly adhere to the guidance he said we should adhere to. So just one of those ideas. Yeah.
D. Ford, bring Glenanoka Falls Trail back to life. Yes.
And I do agree with that, Dee. And we had a couple of messages going back and forth. I do wanted to make it a safe trail that people can access. And again, the challenge I said, we make it safe. That's just going to increase the deluge. It's going to be like Bushkill Falls. And the challenge the thing about Bushkill, the crowds.
Oh, there you go.
There we are. We're back. All right. So, Bushkill Falls can handle the crowds, quote unquote. Glenanoco is already, or Lehigh Gorge,
Lehigh
that
Gorge.
entry point
It's
is already at its max.
max.
So that's my only concern. So we have to think about this, excuse me, holistically.
Cover your cough. There you go.
And lifetime habits are hard to break, no doubt about that. So I'm interesting. Any ideas on how we should proceed with reopening Carbon County? Are there any out there? Anyone commenting on how they would do it?
Well, I will say that Nancy Albeck, and she's up in Potter County now. She says we have lots of defiant people who try to go in. They're in yellow, by the way.
Yeah.
Potter County's in yellow. It says we have lots of defiant people who try to go into businesses without masks, and the store that have just opened will not allow them in. They want to not be shut down again. Businesses here are hurting, and restaurants closing permanently because of this COVID-19.
Mhm.
And then she asks, "We're
We're
in the same
we're
family.
Kin. We're kin.
So, yeah, so we're not.
We live together.
We don't have to have
We
that.
kiss at night. So. Yeah. And Maggie has been tested, actually. I know she doesn't have COVID-19
Yeah.
because when she was in for her appendectomy,
Yeah.
wait, that's HIPAA. Falls under HIPAA. That
Well,
can't
thanks.
be. Right. Yeah. Everyone knows.
Ruptured appendix.
Right.
Yeah.
So we know she's not. I guess I'm more the threat.
He is a threat.
Yeah.
He comes home every day, and I just say, "Well, Lord, if that's
Right. But interacting with the same people every day, but again, we don't know
Again,
what
you
they're
never
doing on their
know.
free time
Yep.
and
And
stuff
they,
like that.
you know,
And that's the thing.
if they
And
don't
keep in
report-
mind, the social distancing doesn't mean stay away from the people you are with every single day, every single moment, meaning family. Now, my mother, something different, right? Much more careful around here because we could unknowingly be carriers, right? So we're much more sensitive. I haven't hugged my mom in 2 months, saying goodbye.
I hugged her.
You just
I'm
you
I'm
stay at home.
I don't leave.
This is only, I think, the second time you've been out of the house in 2 months.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
Ooh,
that's
and
good.
I go to his office.
Yeah, great. But I'm not the brain trust. What I'm pretty good at, though, is listening to good, solid ideas of how we can mitigate risk as we do open up, because it's inevitable. It's going to happen, but we want it to happen on our terms. That's where we have set up the safety protocols and provide guidance. Remember, we provide guidance. Commissioners don't direct private business or citizens to do anything other than pay your county taxes.
Right.
Oh, and
This
get a
is-
dog license. And
This is something that I brought up to Chris because I didn't understand. Like, because people, the outcry was so great. Open our county, open our county. I'm like, what does it require for you to open or close? He's nothing. There's no. The businesses could actually open if they wanted to,
sure,
but they can face
there's
the
a cost.
But there's a cost. There's
There's
consequences. But that's
Single.
only if the municipality or their township enforces it.
or does it.
Or
Right. Yeah.
does it.
Right. Yeah.
If a business decides to open and their township doesn't do anything about it,
All right.
They can-
And basically the police, who are the enforcement
police
authority.
Or the enforcement authority. But this is what it's leading to, that if someone does open and police don't do anything about it and supports them, then they do something about it.
Right. Yeah. It's
And
been
it's-
passed
and
for the
it's-
most part. It's
Yeah,
been
and
passed.
but this is the
enforcement.
thing that's really ugly to me is we shouldn't be calling the police neighbors on people, unless they're doing something that breaks.
Well, I don't know. See, if someone opens a business and there's 20 people in there, that's a threat to the entire community.
Yeah.
You know-
If it's a few people, then what do you do? Like, or one or two at a,
Yeah, but you
a
don't
per
know to
People-
what
you
level
don't-
it's going.
yeah.
Look, if there are rules, enforce them. If you don't have rules, fine. But again, if you have rules, enforce them. I don't like the rules, but I am a believer in, you got to enforce law, right? If you have them on the books, enforce them. And again, the problem is there's this constitutional question that many of us
Right.
have. Does the governor
It's
have the authority to issue, and should therefore then, are they constitutional or unconstitutional? But you as this, go to court, you can challenge it based on constitutional issues and make a constitutional challenge.
Okay, so then Mark Janner asked, well, what would it be possible to open the small retail shops with the sections as the big stores? They have one going around.
Well, I think
They allow some numbers in time.
exactly, and you hit upon the hypocrisy
Exactly.
of restrictions. As we all know, Walmart can open up and they close. They sell auto parts.
So
Everything
with
is-
shops like the Napa Auto Parts on 440, they can open, but Walmart can only.
Yes. So again, that's a double standard, and that's I think so many of us are rightfully upset with the governor. The governor didn't bring into the conversation what I'd like to say are the individuals who know the lay of the land best, and that includes county commissioners. He obviously, whoever he surrounded himself with, wasn't providing sound counsel. We wouldn't have this double standard where Walmart is open, but all of our small retailers, or many of them, are not open. Now, I do know local hardware stores are open, such as Marsden's and Jim
Right.
Thorpe and
They're-
stuff.
they've been
Again,
doing great.
but I mean, Walmart is always the evil one, and the governor has kind of made it the evil one for sure.
Yeah, there's a particular place in the Heighton that I'm dying to go to, and I can't. And I know that it wouldn't be malls. It wouldn't have like 20 people in it. And I'm just like, can we just open just for me, so I can win?
But Mark, you're right. As long as are responsible and enforcing, social distancing, the mask wearing, we can safely do it. We can safely reopen with much less risk. But again, we are going to have irresponsible business owners, and we're going to have, and we already have, irresponsible individuals who
Right.
put us all at risk. I'm not going to debate if a mask is good or bad. You know what? I'm going to suck it up. I'm going to kind of bet on I'm doing the right thing by wearing it. I hate it. Hate it. I think all of us, unless you're a doctor or nurse, and you wear them all the time, you probably hate wearing a mask. A baklava or something in the winter, something to cover, that's fine. Or a gaiter, use a gaiter. Or in the dust or wind. But hate a mask, And I sound muffled when I do it
Fogged
too.
with my glasses.
Like in the commissioners' meetings, I sound like this.
It's bad.
That's why they should have voice boxes like the M17A1, right? The NBC protective mask. They have little voice boxes there for you.
You're getting technical.
Oh, okay, yeah, but I was just thinking about a
Okay.
protective mask, So remember my state park idea. Close the game lands to county residents only. Recreate in your area,
Right.
you know.
There's many people supporting that Beltsville should be, like Linda Balliet says, Beltsville should be for Carver County residents this year, but
Yeah.
I know it's a state
Yeah,
park.
yeah,
I think businesses should open if they want to and set their guidelines for safety
Yep.
to customers and workers, i.e. masks, etc.
yep,
Following
great.
the CDC guidelines, just
Yeah.
my opinion.
No, that's a good one. That's one I agree with. That's why I'm probably saying it's a good one.
Right.
Yep.
Nancy said, I guess the small shops there go by square foot. I guess square foot by square foot, how many people
They can let in. Well, this is one of the things, though, and I want to thank the director of mapping here, because I asked him, I was looking at historical Mock Chunk area. How many people can you safely fit into historical Mock Chunk? Remember that if you go by the protocol, each of us needs an area 36 square feet, right? 6 by 6, which is 36 square feet. How many people can you fit in there? Now go to a little store. How many people, if you use 36 square feet, how many people can you fit in? Not many. Maybe that's the right number. I don't know. But the thing is, though, in shops, you're always passing people. Just like that's why we went to one-ways in grocery stores. Now, Maggie and I, out at Fort Lewis, Washington in 1986, right? That was the first time,
commissary.
all of a sudden, the commissary, the military grocery store, wait, you have to go in one direction. And if you forget
Arrows.
something, you have to work
Ooh.
all the way back
Yeah.
around. You have to skip
And-
an aisle and work your way
Yeah,
back.
and people would go off on
Yeah, you couldn't go the wrong way on a one-way aisle. That was, but that's to avoid, in this particular pandemic, that close proximity of individuals. So I kind of like it. It kind of brought back fond memories of learning. It's like driving down a one-way street, right? No
Right.
big deal. So I don't know what the big heartburn was with that. I did have to make. I don't normally shop at Giant, so a couple times because of their one way, I had to make that loop. The people in Walmart seem to disregard it all the time, and there were arrows, and it is frustrating when they do that. Should we jump to the other big issue that just popped up? Maybe. I mean, I'll continue to entertain this idea or the conversation here. 13 May, former
Yes, sir.
clerk of courts was released, a temporary suspension. I think the former clerk of courts has about 5 months left in his sentence. Now, if you didn't tune into the commissioners' meetings today, we did highlight that this was a decision made by the governor, recommended by the parole board. A significant number of individuals had been released to bring down the population. Those individuals knew multitude of criteria to include their age, what was their risk,
non-violent,
what was the particular crime that they committed, how close were they to the end of their sentence, or what portion had they completed of their sentence. The county commissioners were adamantly opposed to the former clerk of court's early release, thought it was a disservice to the people of Carbon County and others whose lives were impacted and continue to be impacted by his actions or inactions in some way or form. Again, a small fish, people say, yeah, I get it, but again, everyone should have to pay their price. Also, I would tell you that the SCI Waymart, where the former clerk of courts was interred, where he's incarcerated.
Yeah, not buried.
right, where he was incarcerated. Wayne County has a notably higher rate of positive cases than Carbon does. So part of the letter, as I was drafting it, included the fact that you're actually putting him in a higher risk environment. And why do I say this? You say, but he's in a prison. Yeah, but those prison guards who live in the county, and which is right on the border, right, with the state to the east, right, they have a higher potential of bringing COVID-19 into that prison, right, because of who they interact with and the environment, the higher threat environment they're in, versus the majority of our corrections officers who live in Carbon County in a relatively speaking lower risk environment, So just a thought. That was just one of the comments. That entire letter that we sent to the state is online to read. Wow, I'm trying to think if there's anything else really big going on other than the safe and responsible reopening.
Well, there's prison, MC.
Yeah, I think we went through them all. Mock Chunk Lake Park, again, if you want to experience camping without individuals from Carbon County or out of state, this is definitely the period.
This is the time.
I do agree, though. I would tell you that I am in agreement, and I'm going to talk to the Parks and Recreation Board and to my fellow commissioners. I would like to keep, as long as we're in yellow, and since we're going to have to do control of crowds out at Mock Chunk Lake Park, I would prefer, and I would be acceptable to seeing it be for county residents through yellow. I would. I don't have a problem. Now, the county's going to lose money, but again, you've already paid for Mock Chunk Lake Park as far as I'm concerned. The one thing I can do for you this summer is work and advocate for Carbon County residents only while we're in the yellow phase. And look, I am the same way. I truly believe I wish we could just keep that park to Carbon County residents. But I will tell you what, the revenue they bring in to help support it, those from outside,
Like a
you
parking
know,
lot.
probably
The parking lot is
85%. 85% of the revenue that comes, and again, I'm throwing a number out there, 85% of the revenue that comes into Mock Chunk Lake Park is from other than county residents. But again, my hope would be, if we didn't have those individuals, county residents would fill that void. Now, it may take a year or two for that to occur. The natural bring people back who no longer go there because of the problems associated with less than responsible individuals. Doesn't mean everyone in Carbon County is perfect. It just means that there's a higher incident rate, it appears, with those who don't live. It's like having a rental car. And that's how it's seen, right? That lake for them, they don't have to be out there every day and see the trash that is left behind. And, you know, Beltsville's a shame. You know, Beltsville's
yeah,
a
it's
shame.
a shame.
So again, let's shut all those parks. Let's recreate in our own areas for the foreseeable future. And that is till we go from yellow to green. To green. Anything else out there?
Not really.
No phone calls. I'll always be disappointed in that. Not even my mom, brothers, or sisters would call. You know?
Yeah.
There was so much. I have all my newspapers, as I always do, but I think we hit every topic, Maggie. And you know me, I don't like beating a dead horse at all. Golf camping already got the green light. We know that. Nursing home testing begins. Yeah, got that. Schuylkill reps reinforce. Schuylkill is ready. Nope. All right. Oh, Wolf says defiance is cowardly. I don't know why he's using analogies to war, right? Don't know if he's ever been there, right? I don't think he's ever served, actually. You know? Huh. All right. Oh, Carbon County. I really like that picture by Bob Ford. You know, Bob Ford, the one go green, and there's a green candle right here on my window, right, for mental health a week. Oh, wow.
Whoa.
All right. Wow.
We have a call.
Oh, hold on there, caller. Let me go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and put you on speaker. Well, thank you for calling, Margaret. How are you?
I'm great. I didn't want you to feel bad. I felt bad that nobody called you, so I'm calling you.
Well, you know,
you're doing a great job.
well, thank you so much, Margaret. And I guess you wanted to talk about the 2 June election. So tell me what your thoughts are on a sensitive topic, which is to tell our audience also what you think about the consistent, I would say almost pressure we see from some for mail-in ballots.
Oh, perfect. I don't like mail-in ballots. I think it's an opportunity that just reeks of dishonesty. I just, you know, mail-in ballots.
Oh, hey, could you mute your computer, Margaret?
Just reeks of dishonesty.
Because I see it's flowing back.
The possibilities are not good of things that could happen. Oh,
There.
hang on.
Yeah, that's that feedback.
Yeah.
That's that feedback you get. I always
Yeah,
remember
I get
Rush
it.
Limbaugh talking about it.
Okay.
Yeah. No, so go ahead. So no, that
Well,
that
it
is
was a little
concern.
delay there, so we were talking over each other. I just don't like it. Well, the president said yesterday he doesn't like it either, and the way that things are so dishonest in this world now, especially with the two parties hating each other so much, you don't know who's opening these ballots and what they're going to put down, what they're going to throw away, what's going to go missing, what's going to disappear.
Yeah, you definitely have to have good control measures and oversight. Vetted people, people who are trustworthy, and that's why ballots are normally counted. You will see there will be individuals from the different parties who will be physically
Exactly.
present once you start opening those envelopes. And in our case, it's going to be putting them in the scanner.
Right.
Because all you do is confirm the name from the outside of the envelope. Yes, this is a registered voter, Carbon County. Boom, you put it into the scanner for the electronic tabulation. Now, I will tell you, Margaret, and I know you watch a lot of the commissioners' meeting, you saw we are over about 5,100 mail-in ballots. Include some, 100, 500, 600, 700 absentee ballots also. But we're well over 5,100. And in the last presidential primary, we had about 16,000 voters. So we're at about a third, about 30% of folks are already going to go to mail-in balloting. There was no change to your voting location, correct? Because you're out there in East Penn?
I'm in East Penn, yeah.
Right. So your voting location has not been consolidated, if I recall correctly. Right?
Yeah, well, good luck with that. All you can do is pray and just hope that people are going to be honest. That's all I really can say about that, because there's nothing you can do about it right now with the COVID situation. If there was, you'd be doing it, but there isn't. So.
Right.
Well, isn't it when they open it up, there's like 3 people there at the same time
What do you mean?
when they open the...
There
put
are
Yeah.
multiple people there. No one's
Yeah.
doing it alone. But again, you do want individuals watching the count. And you
Yeah.
want to
And
do it in
what else-
transparent.
You know what else I was thinking, too, when I was watching the commissioners' meeting today?
Yeah.
There was a postal worker in there, I think. I don't really know if she was a postal worker, but I think she was, because she was talking about the mail-in ballots. And that's more of a risk for them, too, because their mail is, they've got more mail coming in.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to deal with it. It's just more of a pain in the neck for them.
Yeah, well, that was actually Lisa
Lisa
Dart, the director of elections, who was talking about that. Actually, yep, that was Lisa.
But they don't do anything
Well, there
with
should be
it. It's
there
their
should be a shout out for postal workers too. We do a shout out for a lot of the essential workers in the hospitals and everything, but they're getting more. They're getting an impact too, because they're actually handling stuff. Lots more
Sure.
voters, and then maybe they've got the gloves on, but
Yeah.
still, it's a
Margaret,
lot more work for them
let me
too.
ask you this: if it's legal under, probably, actually, I know it's not addressed in the election code. So we want to bring greater transparency, right? And as you know, almost 2 weeks ago, I started live streaming the commissioner meeting, and it hasn't been until just recently I was able to convince my colleagues to support the county doing it. And for months, I was, after being elected, I was still, unquote, on my iPhone. So what do you think if we live stream the count? Why should we not be running a
Great
24?
idea.
Yeah, just as soon as the official time starts, that we can start opening them up. Reprieve. It was you couldn't do it till night. Why are we not live streaming that entire process? Right?
Hey, Maggie, I have a question.
Okay.
Is his middle name Transparency?
I believe it. And I try to, and I try to follow which I preach, and that's why I do things like my phone. I want them to know what's going on, and I do understand some things have to be discussed to protect, let's say, contractual obligations or things of that. Let's say, for example, HIPAA things and stuff like that. But again, as much as we can push out, as transparent as we can possibly be, we need to be doing that more. With what?
With looking, having somebody do that when we're in the midst of, elections.
Well. Remember in November after the election, when we had the big debacle, who was sitting there live streaming the count? Chris Kasevich. So it's already been done. So get some volunteers. If the county won't do it, Why don't we get some
I'll
volunteers
volunteer.
who will do,
Just
you know,
live
kind of a vigil? And that vigil will be sitting there with the
turns.
cameras, you know, making sure they're charged on the tripod, and they, you know, are sufficient attack. I'll tell you what, I will force the issue to ensure space is made to accommodate individuals who are there to observe the counting of ballots.
Now, are you incorporating a camera in this to make sure that the person who's watching the person
Oh my God.
being honest?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I mean, that's what I did. I went back and I was scanning the whole
Yeah.
process.
He was.
You know,
Yeah,
matter of
I
fact, a
remember
couple times I went right over their shoulder when they were on the computer screen, because if the computer doesn't recognize a signature, it comes up as questionable. And then it pops up on a giant screen. It pops up on the screen and they have to compare the name to the vote roll. You know, I would go and focus in on the screen to show people what was actually taking place. And we did what? For days and days, you know.
Days and
I would
days.
come multiple times during the day and do
Yeah.
that. All right,
And you have
go ahead.
a woman, Nancy, that's saying love the mail-in ballots, and for sweet women like that who are probably very honest, that's great.
Right. And I those individuals, you know, obviously pandemic, those who are concerned about their safety may not want to be in contact with individuals who they know or. Now, I tell you, poll workers will be wearing masks. They will have gloves, and the expectation is we will be responsible when we go to vote, and we'll wear masks. Now, I'm going in mask, going in with gloves. So they're going to kit include white, and they're going to down that down before the next person gets it. Take that. You're given. You have the Sharpie. You're given the Sharpie. You go on your little dots. They're going to go ahead and wipe that. Then when you leave that place, they're going to that for the next person. So, you know,
Yeah, it's September. Hopefully, it's going to get better.
June 2nd.
June. So we're right around there.
Anyway,
So within about 18 days, you know, for, you know, and again, you know, the good thing, I think, with this positive, you know, we had solid as we went 250, 206, just had a couple more drops today. You know, we consolidated our voting places, but what we did is we consolidated places. We looked at the ones that would handle social distancing, privacy. Privacy was a big issue in the last election. So we were conscientious. We found places such as Zilley's up on Jim Thorpe. We're going to empty their 3 do that. The Palmerton firehouse down there in downtown, they're going to empty out all four of the 5, if not all 5 days. They have half one. You know, so again, we can get people space and do much more safely in this particular environment. And then upon, because we've gone from 51 to 30, if I recall correctly, voting locations, we already know we're going to have at least a third of voters. So there's not. Now, there might be spot demands in certain voting places, but if you averaged it out, there would be less folks going to the polls. So we reduced polls, you know, from 50 to 30, 50, you know, ballpark 50 to 30, right? So number of people who are actually going to be at the polls at the end of the day are kind of an equal ratio to that. Again, it's not going to be any more of it in this place. All right.
well, I think it's a great idea.
All
I
right.
think do it.
Well, no. I came up with the idea. I'm going to do it. I'm going to I'm smart out. So I am going to the Board of Election to my fellow commissioners how we can ensure that the is going to environment where that can take place. Really take place in a little room about 12 by 8 or so, a really small room. If you back and look at Facebook ad, you know, it's really tight. And we need it in a open area. So I'll talk to the election because it's very all the concerns about mail ballots. Margaret, hey, I want to for calling and making my night. I have one question. Did you fill out that equine survey from Pay? You recall that to you?
Remind me, what was that? Say
From
that again.
Penn State was doing a survey for those in.
Yeah, I did
Well,
actually.
thank
First thing, I did fill that.
This thing.
Yes.
I didn't hear back from them, but I filled it out.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Idea what really looking.
Here,
All
Meg.
right. Good evening.
Bye.
Take care. Bye. So, well, thank you, Miss Margaret. I'm gonna shut her here unless comment stepping up. We're gonna go.
Right. They're freezing up.
Who's at her council virtually at home while Molly she's dual responsibility. Meeting while